Okay, so last episode, I told you about Saturn, the planet of consequences, that it was sitting right on top of Rome's sun, and that the universe was about to send him a bill. Well, listen up, boys and girls. This week, the whole house merged into one big alliance and lined up to backdoor him. And Saturn is sitting at almost the exact degree of his sun as it happened. So the bill is about to come due. But this time, I want to read through some of the events two ways at once. So my way through the charts and possibly through the lens of a commentator I have been watching for a while. He reads Big Brother through a different question, I will say. Not necessarily just who is winning. What is this new toggle? Can you go away? It's not gonna go away. I'm just gonna have to ignore it. It's gonna be very hard for me to ignore it because I do not know why it is here. You know what? We're gonna live. We're gonna let it rock. We're gonna let it rock. But that will bother me. Challenge for Jacayla. Let's see if she cannot let it bother her. Anyway, let's go. But the other person that I'm watching, I'm not gonna say their names, but I mean, it's not that hard to find them. I don't think. I don't want to say their names, so like I kind of want to have my opinion. I mean, my opinion. Listen, I don't got nobody over here, okay? And he has people, so don't be sending nobody over here to come for me, okay? Because I've been, I'm not really here to start nothing. I know that's how people get like subscribers and stuff going, but I'm a little too fragile for that, okay? Don't come for me. But anyway, he kind of talks about like Big Brother, not through just who's winning, but who also is the story built to protect? Who gets punished for doing the same exact things other players may get praised for? Now, I find him kind of skewing a little hard toward the perspective of the black pen in the house, but and there's only one. But he can get a little conspiracy brained about production, I think. But I also do think that he brings a flavor nobody else has at the table. But yeah, so just full, I don't know, transparency. I definitely did watch his last video before I came here to talk. So I figure it was only fair if I kind of mentioned that. But anyway, let's go. Let's talk about where we are and who it served. So quick catch up. Ashley got evicted 14-0. Yash won the blockbuster to save himself. Devins won the second HOH, and the two power groups merged into an 8-person alliance that Drew apparently has named the Toolshed, with a plan to backdoor Rome. So this is where I thought that the other commentary I listened to was kind of interesting, because his read is that this week is actually kind of a mess for D, and that D don't really want to be working with black people, which I kind of can't see, which I kind of hate because I love D, but I kind of can't see. But that is what it is, whatever. But the clean 14-0 edit, his perspective is that it kind of smoothed over the fact that D's plan initially flipped and then flipped back. And there's something else he also flagged that I think is worth sitting with. For the first time in 3 years, a man did not go home first. He treated Yash kind of as surviving as a real representation moment, especially for young Indian viewers. And honestly, I think, whatever you think about the rest of his politics, I think that's a fair thing to notice and to name. But anyway, let's get to the sky because it has a lot to say about all of it. So, the transits over the house today. Saturn is sitting in Aries right on top of Rome's sun. Saturn is the reality check, the fall from top, the bill for everything you coasted on. And Rome spent about 2 weeks aura forming and calling himself the Alpha. And right as Saturn crosses his sun, the house is organizing to end him, which is just too perfect. But the moon and Venus are both in Virgo today, which is a sign of sorting and judging. And the house, it just kind of sorted itself into two clean sides and started labeling everyone right down to the tool names, And both of those planets are also sitting on Barrett's triple Virgo chart. So the house this week is probably going to be extra warm on Barrett. So just keep that in mind. Mercury retrograde is still happening in Cancer, the secret spiller, and this is the week that Jason finally cracked and told Rome his big secret that he was on Drag Race. Mars is also in Gemini, so the fight is a verbal declare war, pick a side type of fight, type of energy. And Jupiter is in Leo, blessing the bold and the visible, which is going to matter a lot for these fan powers. So, Yash, let me start with Wash. Let me start with Yash because this is where his lens and the chart completely agree. So Yash is a Aquarius sun with a Capricorn moon and Capricorn Mercury, which is like literally the coolest, most disciplined, least likely to panic wiring in the house. His Mars is also, in Aries, which is like raw, intense, clutch type of competitive type of fire. So here he is, he's like sitting on the block, he's needing to win or basically go home. And the Capricorn is what can kind of, keep them hands a little steady. And then the Aries Mars is that energy that will go and take it. This is a chart that is built to hit the shot under pressure. And he technically hit it. I mean, I hit it every time. But this time, when it mattered this week, he did. And he kind of called it a go and get it win that ends up building character. And I think his chart actually ends up saying the exact same thing, where we see like this ice cold strategist with the fire engine delivering where it counted. And on the representation point, I do kind of want to let that land. A young man who did not walk in with a built-in fan base, corner on the block, he stayed calm and he executed. Whatever lens you watch through, I think that's a good moment. And, I do like that he refused to skip past that. So now let's get to Jason. And the commentator I was listening to, he had a very sharp point about Jason I want to kind of keep chewing on. His argument, and this is why I like listening to other commentators or like listen to other people talk about Big Brother, because it does nothing but like help me think more in an astrological manner about some of these placements. So his argument, the commentator I'm talking about, should I just go and say it? Recency bias. Recency media. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. I am trash, yo. Oh, my sticker book came. Sorry. I am trash. I didn't know there was paint by stickers that you could do. Let me see. He should be in my watch history because I literally just watched him. Recency bias radio. Or whatever sound he makes. He's funny, but like we don't always agree on I do not have the same views as him for a lot of stuff. But I don't have to listen to someone who only agrees with what I feel about stuff. So I don't care that he doesn't have my same opinions about stuff, but it's always just like a slippery slope when you're like, I don't know, like sometimes like people do things you like me not condone. I don't think so far he's ever done anything that I don't condone or whatever. I just don't agree with all of his mind points or viewpoints. But anywho, so his argument basically is that fans are piling onto Jason for the exact kind of gameplay basically that has been celebrated from years from other players. The lying, fake crying, manipulating the whole toolkit. He points out that the fandom is obsessed with Dan's funeral. Everyone is. One of the most famous lies in the show's history. And his question is, why is it that the same behavior can read as iconic from one player and offensive from another? He thinks it's a double standard, and I think there's some real meat here. But this is where I wanted to say what he was thinking and add where I think the chart ends up adding to it, not even really arguing. So Jason's a triple Libra with a Gemini moon and a Gemini Mars. His chart is built to charm and to fight with words. He's basically a performer who can play the social game as an art. So Jason is doing exactly what his chart is designed to do, have big theatrical social maneuvering. And this week, under Mercury retrograde in Cancer, the secret spiller, he cracked and revealed his drag race pass to Rome, the one card he was keeping in his pocket. And he noticed Jason shrinking on the feeds, playing smaller after the episode landed badly, like he could feel the room turn. That's a Libra reading the temperature and adjusting, pivoting. And a Gemini Mars that talks itself into corners then has to figure out how to talk itself back out of that corner. So in my opinion, I think holding both of those lenses is that Jason's not the villain of the season. He's a Libra playing in a villain's game in a house that I feel like could be deciding to punish him for it faster than it will punish others. And whether that is about who he is, the way he argues, or just bad timing under a bad transit, I think that both things can be shaping it all at once. So that's just my thought there. I don't have much else to add to that. So let's move on and talk about D and the flirt mans and the target question. So D. So my chart read and his chart read kind of start in the same place and then they split, and I think it's worth showing both. So D's a Libra sun with the Mercury in Virgo and Venus and Mars in Leo. So she looks really warm and a little naive, but she calculates very cold underneath. I think she's a very pretty person, like looks wise. But the other commentator, Recency, he agrees that she's calculating, or does he call himself coach? I think his sign is so funny. Okay, let me stop. You guys can see just how weird I am. But he agrees that she's calculating basically, but like he does push a little further, arguing with her that her real pattern is that she doesn't actually want to go deep with the black woman in the house, Latrice and Taylor, and that her talk of pulling them in is just about positioning, not loyalty. And he does back it up with her survivor history. And I'm not gonna like stamp it as a fact, but because like I can't read her heart from a chart basically. But I will say that a Mercury in Virgo strategist keeps their options open and tells people different things is exactly what a chart that could hold that kind of gap between what it says and what it means. So I think his suspicion and her chart are at least kind of compatible. I just want to watch whether she ever actually moves for Latrice and Taylor or just talks about it. And I think that would be the tell. And then let's talk about the flirtmance just for a second. Last episode I told you Dee and Barrett, they have real chemistry. His Mars and her Venus are both in Leo. This is the classic chemistry aspect, and that Jupiter moving into Leo is going to light it up. The feeds say it is cooking, okay? Dee came looking for Barrett in the night, and today Venus itself is sitting on Barrett's chart. Now, he reads a little more cynically, a recency, whatever, that Dee is not feeling anyone and will perform closeness with whoever is useful, and that Barrett being all over her undercuts the whole point of Barrett being kind of like a quiet operator for the vets. And I think both can be true. I think fair enough. I think, however, though, that the chemistry aspect is real and that a Libra, Venus, and Leo can absolutely turn that charm into a tool. And I think that's also kind of the fun of Dee. You generally can't tell where the feeling ends and the strategy starts, and neither can the house. So Barrett and Drew, are they actually safe? Because this is another good question he had, is about Barrett and Drew. These are the two newer players that are glued to the vets. Recency's take is that they're not guaranteed to a ride to the end, and that they're working hard to earn a spot with the vets, and that all their pot storing this week actually end up exposing more than it needed to. Now, I see it because the charts, they back the caution. Barrett is a triple Virgo. He's the analyst who can read the room and keep his hands clean, which is why the whole house trusts him, and which is why this guy is on his chart this week. And that's real value, but it is also the profile of a person who is useful to everyone and indispensable to no one. Exactly the guy who gets carried and then cut. Drew, he's an Aquarius with the Cancer moon and the Mars and Taurus, which is very loyal and steady, but emotionally it's a little apart from the group. And I think this is why, as even the feed show, Angela keeps just not fully trusting him. So his instinct that those two are less locked in than they look, I think, is one the charts don't even argue with. And even though they are doing great work, but as we all know, great work doesn't necessarily equal safe. Now, let's get to the tool shed. 8 people, 0 water child. So this is a new mega alliance. This is Devins, Angela, Kirk, Camus on the fire side. We got Dee, Drew, Chuck on the air side. We got Barrett and Haley on the earth side. And there's not one water sign in it. Not one. Water is what you have to have that emotional caution where your gut says, slow down. This is too risky. This alliance got none of it. None of it. So, of course, they choose the loud, declare war, topple the empire move over the quiet, safe one. It's a lot of air and fire with no water to cool it running hot. And this rhymes, I think, with his take too, because a lot of his warning in his video is that the messy theatrical version of this plan actually has more holes than subtle ones, and that the players firing the first big shot are usually the ones who ends up getting the house rallied against them. And I think that is the no water problem in his language. This bold alliance with no breaks is pretty thrilling, but also very unstable at the same time. Okay, I don't think I have much more else to say about them, to be honest with you. Moving on. So this is where I'm going to ride with him part way and then pump the brakes, to be honest with you. The house ended up learning that there are 6 fan vote powers coming. And his interpretation is that production is stacking the deck to protect the vets and the survivors, guaranteeing Dee, Devins, and Angela gets twist and float to jury. And he gets pretty deep into the it is rigged, all rigged, And I'm not going to tell you it is rigged because I don't know that. And I'm not going to try to sell his conspiracy as a fact. But when I strip away the rigging claim, I actually kind of think there's some real observation underneath. And the sky, I think it agrees with the observation because Jupiter is in Leo right now, blessing the bold, visible, the preloaded stars. Fan votes, we all know, reward whoever already has shine. And the people with shine are the ones who walked in famous. So you don't need a production conspiracy to predict the vets win the early fan powers. You just need to know Jupiter and Leo and a basic understanding of how fan votes work. I think on this, he and I do land in the same spot. The vets are favored for the first powers. I just think that we may take different roads to get there. His may be more suspicion. Mine is more of the transit. So both lenses at once. Let's talk about the temperature right now. So the house is consolidated into one bold, waterless block and picked the most theatrical move. The sky is collecting Rome's debt on schedule, and the story, whether by edit or by Jupiter, is tilting towards the players who already had a spotlight. And who I see the sky favors? Barrett. his chart is lit up, that in the house, it's warm on him. Though he would remind you warm is not safe. Indeed, she's riding that Leo Jupiter glow while everyone is being kept guessing. And who I think this guy is checking? Rome with that Saturn on his sun. He better be winning them vetoes, bitch. But I would just watch through both lenses. The one is Yash. He's the clutch Aquarius who has just proved that he performs under pressure, and his survival meant more to some viewers than the edits even let on. So that's my thoughts with I have such a bad memory. Recency bias radio. The Pump podcast. I don't know. I'm so sorry. Sir, if you ever hear me, I did not mean to like imitate you and stuff like that in like meanness. I am just a silly Billy person, and I have actually been watching you for a while. I think at one point I may have been subscribed to your Patreon, actually. If you can look that up, you can look that up and you see that facts. I ain't lying about that shit. But so needless to say, like, yeah, I have watched you, but also needless to say, I don't like all of your opinions. But needless to say, I think that's fine, and we should all be able to have our own views and our own opinions and live out life. But if you ever meet my best friend, she would annihilate you with her opinions, because she's better at verbal toe to toe than I am. I'm just kidding. There's no need to annihilate or whatever. But yeah, my stars, they just kind of lean side by side. Anyway, I do think we agreed the bill came due for Rome. I think we agree that Yash's win matters. I think we agree that Jason is getting punished harder than the game usually punishes that behavior, whether you read that through his chart or through who he is. We're a little split on the rigging, because I will let Jupiter and Leo explain what he explains with the production agenda. But anyway, tell me in the comments which lens you watch through, and whether you think the double standard on Jason is about who he is or just bad timing under a bad sky, because I genuinely go back and forth, and I haven't seen any of his other stuff. But if you want to, like, drop your sun and your Saturn sign, because Rome is having his Saturn moment on national television. And some of y'all know exactly how that feels, just not on national television. Anyway, I may be back out there the nomination to see if the backdoor lands. The transits keep moving, the edit keeps spinning, and the house keeps giving us everything. Anyway, I love you. I love this messy cast, and I love that there is more than one true way to read a room. See you next time. Bye.